right, y'all. We're going to go ahead and get started. So my name is Ralphie Perez. I'm the programs chair here at AAF Orlando. We're so excited for our speaker, Eddy, who is from Outfront Media. We hope that you enjoy his conversation and really just get inspired by not only his creative thinking, but hopefully get your juices flowing in your current career. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to our AAF president, Terry Mooney.
Hello, everybody. We are very happy to be presenting this webinar today. So thank you all for registering and for attending. And I'm sure everybody's going to get, some good inspiration from this one. Go ahead, Ralphie. Next slide. So as you all know, we are AAF Orlando. We are part of the American Advertising Federation. We are located in the 4th District, which is all of Florida and the Caribbean. We have 2 chapters here, AAF Orlando and then Add to Orlando, which is our chapter for young advertising professionals. And then, this is a good quote. If you're in business and you're in advertising, just kind of talks about the reach that the advertising industry has and how it affects every consumer and every business in one form or another. And then of course the AAF's top call is we are the unifying voice for advertising. So if you're on this call today, this webinar, and you're not a member, then please consider joining us. Visit our website at aaf-orlando.org and check it out. And then if you are on the call and you are a member, and you're not involved with a committee or a volunteer position yet, please think about that too, because we always need people to help with all of our initiatives, and it just makes the club better and stronger. So please consider that. All right, Ralphie. So, okay, and a plug today for our mentorship program. We're just kicking that off for this year. So we're looking for mentor volunteers and we're looking for mentee volunteers. So this is going to be a joint initiative with Add2 and with AAF Orlando. We have forms on both websites for mentees and or mentors. It's the same form with a choice there for you to designate what you're interested in. If you haven't been a mentor or a mentee, I strongly suggest that and urge you to try it. It's really great. It's really great to have somebody to just kick around ideas with, talk about the industry, talk about your future, learn new things. I've been lucky enough to be a mentor a few times, and I just get a lot of satisfaction out of it, as well as I keep learning from it too. So again, please think about that. And if you're interested, visit the websites and fill out the forms. Today, we are very fortunate to have Eddy Harty, as you see, VP and National Creative Director of Outfront Studios. And we were lucky enough to have Eddy and his team come a couple of years ago and give us a really great presentation then. So today, Eddy is going to present his Design from the Heart presentation. And I think we're all going to get a lot of inspiration and ideas out of this one as well. And really, this is Eddy's walkthrough of his own really personal journey. And it's led him to this philosophy and this concept of designing from the heart. And you're going to see in this presentation some, not only his journey, but some great examples of creative and strategic thinking and how that all played a part in him arriving at this philosophy. So that's it for me. Without any further ado, let's turn it over to Eddy. And thanks again, Eddy.
Thanks a lot, Terry, man. I appreciate that. And yeah, it definitely will be a little different as far as it won't be so focused on design. There's definitely design in there, but this is really more of like what's behind that design. I just need to share the screen. I guess if y'all can disable, there we go. Right.
And And while Eddy is getting the presentation pulled up, just a few quick housekeeping items. We will do a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. We'll answer them in the order they've come in, and we will have some time left if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions. So, all right, Eddy, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So yeah, like I said, a little more personal presentation here. So bear with me on that one. I'm going to start with one of my favorite quotes and something that I just, it keeps me going every day. Freedom consists not in doing what we like, but in having the right to do what we ought. And just looking at today's climate, right? And pick whatever topic you want. That's so important to us right now, right? To, use our gifts that, we have, the freedoms we have, and use them to do what we ought to do, to speak out the way we ought. Very personal, right? So this is pictures of me when I was a kid. I just wanted to start here to say that my background, I was born overseas in Malaysia. I'm an American citizen, but lived in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and had somewhat of a privileged life, for sure. This is my dad with a python around his neck, and me and my sisters loving on the Thundercats. I don't know if you can still watch that on Hulu. I just found out, pretty excited about that. It's not quite the same as it used to be, but our life was, living in a third world country, but just a completely different lifestyle than what you would normally have in America. Our vacations, just a road trip would mean going to a completely different country versus, here going to, I don't know, Texas or DC or whatever it is. We were exposed to people that had everything, and then, like you see in this picture, people that had like nothing. This is me with a bunch of refugees, where we're donating stuff to them, spending the day playing games with them. And I still remember that last, in Kuala Lumpur, which is a metropolis, huge city, that last turn we'd take on the way to school on the bus, there was, on one side there'd be a skyscraper, and on the other side, it was literally a 10-roof shanty village, where I would see this mom a couple of times a week bathing her baby underneath this faucet. And it always struck me the contrast, right? Like on this side, you've got suits, and on this side, literally people with barely any clothes, taking showers under faucets. It was bizarre. Fast forward, we moved from Malaysia, due to just new laws in that country about American expatriates having to leave the country after 10 years, to a town called Green River, Wyoming. And this slide pretty much says it all. The only thing it doesn't say is you couldn't find another town unless you drove another 3 hours outside of this town. So very cold. I'm sure you've seen like old Westerns where the cowboys walking down the street and sagebrush is rolling across the road. And literally when we moved to this town, we got out of the car and sagebrush, tumbleweeds were just like going across the road. And, met a lot of good people there, or not a lot, there wasn't a lot of people there in general, but made friends. But it was a very tough time in my family's life, being originally from New Orleans, living in this tropical rainforest, and then going to basically a frozen tundra, which this quote comes to mind and is also another guiding light in my life. Not putting our hope in the finite, like the things that are here and gone, but putting our hope in something bigger than ourselves, being part of something bigger. And especially when you think about street artists these days, their passion behind what they do, it's always bigger than just themselves. I was literally on a call with Peter Tunning like an hour ago, and he just went off about like how that movement itself is just bigger than any one person. And I think as designers, as creatives, that's something we can really relate to. And at the time, I couldn't see that. I couldn't see that at all. Eventually, my parents would move to New Orleans. They decided, you know what, quitting my job, moving back home to New Orleans. We're going to start over again, which, first was exciting, but, at this point in my life, I didn't really stand for much. I had all these experiences that, you know, weren't really connecting in my head the way they should. So I was kind of open to everything and stood for nothing. And these opportunities or, you know, experimenting, like I feel like the majority of the people on this call came along, and I was open to any kind of drugs or any kind of anything. I didn't care, and kind of went down a deep rabbit hole with that to the point where I looked like this. And I'm sure if I could hear everybody, you're probably laughing, especially if you're taking a closer look at those sideburns. What the hell's going on with those sideburns? Yeah, I was just a dark person that didn't really give a damn. Like, I don't think I was sober for 2 years straight during high school. And, you know, eventually if you do that long enough, you're going to get arrested. And case in point, that's what happened. So my mom, she was part of the Rotary program. So foreign exchange students and stuff. And probably the coolest punishment ever, she got me involved and sent me to France. So, you know, I show up to this airport and I'm surrounded by all these like student government leaders, these kids that are just excelling, honors classes, all this stuff. And, you know, they're talking about why they're there. And I'm like, I got arrested. I really don't belong here. But they, you know, my mom put me in there, and away I went to France. And something happened when I was over there. I just, you know, I got tired of the way I was living, and, you know, had this connection, you know, something deep rooted in me that changed. And I started realizing, you know what, like that quote said, I need to start living today. I need to stop like pining about yesterday or whatever the issue was, or what if, just start living for today. And this is, I don't know if anyone's ever been to Paris. This is the big fountain in front of the Eiffel Tower that you're not supposed to go in. I was like, screw it. I jumped in, and like shortly after this picture was taken, I mean, hundreds of people just started jumping in the fountain and splashing around, and like something there, you know, started clicking, right? Like, you just be yourself. People are going to relate to that. They're going to see passion in that. They're going to like that. So I just committed to that, just being myself. I didn't really care what anybody thought about me. I'd wear shirts that just were, you know, challenging people's stances on different things, and just to start a conversation. I really literally wore my opinion on my sleeve, right? And, you know, I just, you know, I went to LSU for college, and, you know, we started, you know, just meeting people that were like-minded. And not that I was a huge sports ball fan, but I liked having fun, doing crazy things. This is my buddy who's actually, at the time, he was in the seminary at the time. And that actually was a priest, that Vietnamese man standing behind him. But, you know, we were just people that wanted to be ourselves and have a great time. And that's what we did, and ended up meeting my wife there. I think she hates that picture on the left, but that's the first picture we have together. Anyway, so all that personal stuff kind of gives you the background of where my head's at. And in my head, I wanted to be this guy, this badass logo designer at an agency, doing, you know, the coolest projects at this huge agency. And I just was determined. I was working my butt off. I was doing 2 to 3 internships at a time, you know, trying to fit in school between the internships, and finally landed at the largest agency in Louisiana, actually. And it was badass. Like, I was like, finally, hard work paid off. I wasn't getting paid like anything, literally hardly anything, just enough to cover my bus ticket and lunch for the week. But I was there, right? I, you know, made it. And I was resizing Ruth Chris Steakhouse ads like constantly. Like, that's all I was doing, and was kind of hating that, as most people would. But then they called me in on this brainstorm, and ironically enough, it was for an out-of-home ad for literacy. So like, in my head, I'm like, holy crap, how do you communicate to people that can't read on a billboard that they have to read? Like, they can't hear it, that they have to read this. Like, what an awesome challenge. How are we going to do this? So we're in this room, one of the creative directors, art directors, and myself, junior, super junior, and we're brainstorming about this. And then in walks the principal, the head creative director. And this is what he said to us. I don't give a bleep if anyone learns to read, but this better win an effing award. And I mean, if you could see air, you would have seen it all just get sucked out of the room in a heartbeat. Like just everything all these ideas we were throwing around, just gone, and just killed it. Just absolutely killed it. And it just messed with my head. I was like, dude, but you're like the leader of this agency and that's all you care about? I was thinking about all those things from my past, like seeing these people that had nothing. And like now here I'm in a place where we're designing something that can help someone learn to read and better their life situation. And this is what you have to say about it? It just crushed me. It really stuck with me. And 2 weeks later, as a lot of you in Orlando probably can relate to, and just Florida in general, or Houston, I know someone Houston's on here, but Hurricane Katrina hit and it just changed everything. The stuff I saw, driving in late at night to the airport on a bus to load people up, to evacuate them because they can't walk anymore, because their legs are all infected because they walked through that toxic sludge. I don't know if you remember hearing on the news, seeing the body bags, just bodies lining, the looks of people's faces that had lost everything. It just punched me in my face and made me re-examine what I want to do. Like, do I want to work at this particular place under this particular leadership, resizing ads all day for people that I'll never talk to? For the next, several months, this was dinner, lunch, breakfast, trying to find jobs when everyone else was trying to do the same thing. It was tough. It was really a huge turning point in my life. But what it did, it drove me to think about these things, to really listen to my conscience. Like if that conversation that the creative director had in that room that day keeps coming up in my gut, I need to listen to that and I need to have heart. And the thing that was telling me is whatever I do, I got to listen to people. I got to understand how I can help them, and I got to speak truth. And it made it very concrete in my heart and in my mind that if you care about these things, right, even if it's just care about having fun, right, or care about helping or whatever, like that image of me jumping in that fountain in Paris, people follow that. If you can care about that, you can lead. And I don't care if it's like a group of, 50 people or 200 or 5 or 1, or just your kid, you can lead. And that's something to lead. So I left New Orleans, went up the road looking for jobs and set up a bunch of interviews in Savannah and Charleston. And my buddy from LSU, my roommate, he was living in Charlotte working as in the audit department at what was then Wachovia, now Wells Fargo. And I went on interviews, lots and lots of interviews. When I landed in Charlotte, still had nothing, So during the day I would go knock door to door and rake leaves for money to pay for my rent at my apartment. And then whenever there was an AIGA event or AAF, so like, again, can't say how grateful I am to be able to talk to this because I was that person looking for a job not too long ago. I would show my book, try and get a job. And that was tough, man, because you go to these agencies, whether it's virtually now or in person, and they put on a good face, right? They want to help you out, but they're busy and they got stuff to do. And deep inside, this is what they're thinking. They're just like, all right, kid, yeah, shut up, do whatever you got to do. And with this, like, I specifically remember one in Charleston. They weren't really giving me the time of day until I said, you know, they asked like, why are you here? Where are you from? It was like New Orleans. And then it came up Katrina, blah, blah, blah. And they said, oh, hold on. And they went and got some of their friends. And I thought like, part of me was hoping like, oh, they're excited about something in my book. But they're like, no, this is a victim of Katrina. And then it was just like, oh, and that sucked. Like, so if you're ever in that position, like, yes, help people, but like, don't throw a pity party for people. Like, you know, we want you to see value and worth in what we're doing, not just a pity party. But anyway, finally landed a small agency. So the opposite of where I started, a very boutique agency called Ginger Griffin Marketing and Design up in Charlotte area. And I loved it. Like you were the photographer, you were the copywriter, you had to wear all these different hats, and you were meeting direct with clients. And that's where like it really, I was like, this is what I love. It connected that I can listen to this client and direct work on something, show it to them, and that can help their business, thus their employees, thus everybody else. And I absolutely loved that. During that time, I got married. My wife was still in Louisiana, finally got married and moved her up, had a kid, one of many to come. And then the issue of money came up, right? So we're having a kid, and as unfortunately a lot of designers, you don't have money, you don't make a lot. So what the hell are you gonna do? I looked for another job, and I ended up at Adams Outdoor, which was a blessing because like, hey, you know, money to support my family, but it also meant these things, which at the time I was like, I hate these things called billboards. They're the most ugly eyesore on the planet. What the hell? It was just like this, great, billboards. I didn't want to do it, but I wanted to support my family. Because I thought billboards were this crap. Like I thought it was just very busy garbage that, you know, that was the last thing you worried about, rather the first thing. You know, it was just the last minute, 11th hour thing. You know, it was like watching somebody do something that normally they never have done. But, you know, if that client would just let me help them design it better, it would be better, right? Like, but they don't. So therefore you just look at this butt ugly ad that's awkward to watch and frankly slightly painful. And that was out of home to me. And that's a clip of my daughter who eventually got her shirt on. But the reason why we have that perception is because 100% of boring ads just don't matter. No one cares about them. And I didn't realize that until this project that my then creative director, Brian Hazelton, gave me. Said, I want you to work on this PSA for Second Harvest Food Bank. I was so excited, like right away, tons of ideas flying through my head. You know, I couldn't wait to show the client all these great ideas. She was going to love them. I was going to save the day, like so many food donations, more than they've ever had. I could just feel it in my bones. And so I go to talk to her, and she shows me this picture, or this letter, and says, thank you so much for giving us food for the Kids Cafe program. I would not eat sometimes. I would not eat sometimes. I mean, if it wasn't for the food that you give me. Like, and this was just one of like a huge stack of letters, right? And just like, I felt awful, right? Like I just like, okay, everything I thought of is garbage and we should just tear it up and throw it away because I really suck. I'm worthless. And it wasn't until I listened, right? I got ahead of myself on what I swore I wouldn't do. It wasn't until I listened and understood that unless the food bank gives this kid a box of Cheerios, kid's not gonna have breakfast, right? So in essence, that box of Cheerios is a miracle. Unless somebody brings a can of tomato soup to the food bank, that family is not gonna know what compassion feels like. Like that's what it was. It was more than a box. It was more than a can of soup. It was more than a bottle of apple juice. It was strength for this kid for that day. You know, it was love for this kid on that day. And this this project just clicked for me. Like it solved all my out of home disgust and perceptions that I had previously. It took it all away, and it made it very clear that there was no other medium that I wanted to design for ever again. Because if I could boil that heartfelt letter down into these visuals, where else can you do that in such a quick way, right? Like at one glance, you got 4 words. I know what this is about. It sparked in me that out of home is this thing that in a split second can amaze you and cause this wonder. Like it can take emotions from one place to the other place in just that split second, you know. I always say it's this thing that, you know, can scream to thousands, and in that very instant can speak to you personally, pulling out, you know, whether it's rage or, you know, empowerment of any sort of way. I don't know of any other medium that can do it on such the scale that out of home does, and that requires such the discipline and attention to craft to make sure that you nail it within those 2 or 3 seconds. It's, you know, I could go on forever, but it's why I'm still here, right? Because you can literally put a person in a body bag on a bus shelter, or you can affirm the rights of a whole community, whole group of people, and be that voice. It's incredible. And not to mention, you know, not to get on the statty side of things, but this stat, 60,000 times faster than text. Images, when you see them, they're processed by your brain at that rate. So yeah, just show me something that moves me, that connects with me, you know, because the brain is a visual thing. Anyway, back to this. Adams did that for me, so I'm always grateful for that company. Again, 2008 hits, recession, things get hairy. I'm having to move again. I meet up with an old coworker from actually Adams, who hires me on at Olympus Media, which then is bought out by Fairway. But you know, Olympus was such a great experience, such a good camaraderie and community there. Then it was taken over by Fairway, which is basically run by Tommy Boy. I still remember the CEO walking into this office when they took over of this company saying, "Don't worry, we're a family business. No one's going to get fired." And, you know, matching plaid everything, just plaid everything, which I'm no fashion statement myself, but this was pretty rough to look at. I asked him a question. I said, what does Fairway stand for? Like what, so Olympus, we were creative, and our people, what does Fairway stand for? And he said, after thinking about it for 5 minutes and a lot of ums and uhs, he said, our brown poles, like the pole that the billboard's on, people know them for their brown poles. So I quit. I didn't really have much in plan, but reached out to some old friends and got hooked up. Jack Henry & Associates, financial software solutions, everybody on this call's dream job, right? Like 300-page brochures with lots of superscript register marks and trademarks, made up words like scimitar and profit stars that it was just, it wasn't a billboard for me. It was a 6-month-long project. And so that's why on the 7th month, I had to leave. I couldn't do this cubicle world anymore where nobody talked to each other. I needed that energy, that sharing, knowing that I was helping somebody else. And I was tired of doing freelance. Like go to work 8 to 5 or 6 or 7, go home, be with the kids and the family. They go to bed, start working at 10 o'clock till about 2 a.m. and then do it all over again. I was just, I mean, look, at my age, I shouldn't be this bald, right? Like it shouldn't be, but freelance was killing me. So even though I didn't like the company CBS Outdoor, I thought their creative was crap. I said yes, because they knew they were going to change to Outfront. They knew they had a plan to become something bigger and better. And they wanted me to create this team that we call the studios, where it became more of a boutique agency specializing in all the things that I went through that I love, right? And so now we're this 50 creative team across the country. We just had our call yesterday with everybody on it, and the pride was just welling up in me. I literally to the point of tears that I'm so damn proud of this team, because we're all on the same page. We all want to help that local mom and pop, that bakery, that car wash, that, lawyer, that whatever it is, we want to be there for them, and we want to show the world how they can benefit. In the process, me and my wife, I guess our hobby is having kids. I've been able to do what I love and support my family, which has been just a huge gift for me. And I attribute it to knowing who I am, right? Not being ashamed of it, not, I'm loud sometimes, I'm obnoxious, I, jump on conference tables, whatever it is. I'm a horrible speller, but I love talking and learning from people. Knowing who you are, because you're that way for a reason, right? And I get to work with people who stand up for the right thing. So when a crappy billboard like this shows up, they say no. And we give something that inspires people, right? We take all the crap off and just focus on what really matters, what gets people excited about whatever that product is, right? Even if it's a lawyer, right? So some of the Atlanta team that I work with is on this call, and I'm just amazed with this client that went from $5,000 a year for these ugly billboards that no one cared about to creating basically, Bruce Willis in Die Hard and making a movie sequel that spanned over the course of 5 years. And now from that $5,000 a month or a year to them signing almost $1 million contract a year, all because taking the time to learn from the client and just hearing their story, understanding who they want to be seen as or what they can do. And just believing in what you do to stand your ground. So Jared, and a lot of y'all on this call know who Jared is, our senior art director there in Orlando, just believing in what he does, right? And standing for something. He's passionate about pet adoption, right? And, thank you also to Lou, the GM in Orlando down there, for, encouraging that passion, to helping foster that, to where this wasn't even a PSA, but it was a paid client that let him, and not just Jared, but people from my team across the country brainstorm copy lines, creating this fun campaign that, speaks to the people that get it, right? Maybe it doesn't speak to everybody, it's in front of everybody, but it speaks to the people that want to help out with this. And when you lean on the passion, right, that you have, that special project, that thing that drives you, you're gonna find happiness. You're gonna find ways to share that, because people are gonna be receptive to that. Even when you're faced with things that, maybe aren't that great, right? You gotta be honest, right? Because it's in you. When we got this from Fresh Market, I knew what was happening. The internal design department was asked at the 11th hour to create a billboard. So he did what any designer would do, is just resize the print ad, which doesn't work for billboards. But because I'm passionate about what I do, and because I really want to help him, and I want to help this company, and I want to help all their employees and cashiers and people in the bakery, whatever, I'm honest, right? So we told him all these different things that, look, I'm not calling your baby ugly, I'm just trying to help you. And found out that I was 100% right. The guy's overworked. He doesn't have time to worry about a format or an industry that he doesn't really care about. So he let us recreate his campaign, right? The AE was very direct with him back and forth, and ended up being a $2.8 million contract just from being passionate. It's not about money, that will come. It's about knowing what you do, staying true to what you do, and opening up your mouth when you need to, right? From there, doors will open, right? Being able to collaborate with GTB, Ford's agency, a few years back on some campaigns, showing them how we can use out of home to, not just to be this anchor in the ground on one billboard, but how it goes into mobile and social and then back on digital, where we're incorporating not just the brand, but the people who love the brand, right? Including influencers, right? Just making sure we cover all the grounds. This is a recent one for Rouse's Supermarket in the Gulf Coast that we got to work on. You know, just listening to this client, sitting in a room with them, hearing why they're at Rouse's, right? So if you ever have that discovery conversation with a client, the one question I always ask is not so much your differentiator, why is your company special, but why you personally, why did you work there? I want to know that, because you could work at all these other companies. Tell me why you work there. And that's when I get to the heart of what's behind that business, right? And we can understand what the community needs to know about that business and what's going to attract them to that business. And then from there, it's, you know, their creative department creating that partnership where it's ego-free, right? My design team isn't there to save the day and, hey, look at us, look, step aside, let us handle it. No, I want to build these partnerships and I want to bring out the best in other people. It was their words from their mouth that inspired this campaign in the first place. So why not let them take a hand in it and let it, you know, bring it to life? And now it's more than a billboard, right? It's taken over their entire company, even on the HR level. Like, that's what happens when you stop and you take a look at what really matters, right? You just listen for a while. And when you do that, again, you attract a bunch of other people, right? So I got a few shout outs to Say It Loud. I don't know if you're on this call, and then Lisa Champ, you see some of your work on here. But when you do that, you see the true potential, like for us out of home, the true potential of these canvases to share these messages. You're going to attract people like Shepard Fairey, Peter Tunney, you know, these artists, these, you know, global creative directors, you know, from even around the world. Kate Stanners is out in the UK, and you get to meet them and talk to them, and you realize, guess what? They're just like you. They view design just like you. They have the same struggles, just like you. They've had the same setbacks in their life, just like you. But what they've done a great job of is staying true to what's in their heart, what they believe, what they're passionate about. And that has pushed them forward. You know, I'm so proud of this campaign that Tim Lisicki, you see here in the picture, helped out with. This is something he was very passionate about, right? Just having a voice, not just for him, but for our whole company, you know, putting something out there that lets people know that, you know, we as a company support, love our people of color within our organizations, and that everyone out there should be affirmed, like, know that they are loved, right? Even to the point where it inspired another projector company to adopt our campaign and start projecting it in New York City and San Francisco. And they're about ready to add in an augmented reality filter to it. So again, that domino effect of people being attracted to things that you're passionate about, because you're not the only one, right? There's different passions, but that's what makes this world beautiful. Like I believe that. And, you know, some of y'all have seen this before, but this is my 3-year-old. I have 2 years worth of video of him doing laundry. And that sounds so weird, so strange. I still think it's weird. But when you spend time with him and you see what he likes about it, like he'll sit there and spin the laundry, the washing machine. He likes to see how things work inside, and he's just fascinated with it. And you know what? It's not that weird, right? And his passion has brought joy to a lot of people, right? I get hit up all the time from people like, oh my gosh, I needed that today. Your son's got the right idea. Sharing that passion brings a lot of joy. And so I'm going to end with this quote here. Unless someone like you cares an awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. I love that, and I can't believe that any more than I do. Things don't change until you speak up and you care about it and you stand for it. Then they change. Thank y'all. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Eddie. That was amazing. I personally work in marketing. Now I feel like designing something right now. So that's awesome. Thank you so much. So we do have some questions coming in. The first one, it's probably an inside joke and a comedic question, but it is from Kat. What is your favorite Thundercat character?
Oh man, good question, Kat. Panther, I always kind of lean on there because I didn't want to go like Lion-O. But then I had a Shih Tzu as a kid that looked just like Snarf. And so when I see Snarf, it makes me think of Pitty Pat or Shih Tzu. So I'm going to go with Snarf.
Nice. Very cool. So the next question is, how do you stay creative? Do you have any creative hobbies?
Children. Yeah, so my kids, you know, I got a 13-year-old that likes to unicycle and do magic tricks. You saw my 3-year-old that likes to do laundry. I got a kid that loves sports. So we're constantly moving around with them, even during this time. The things I love to do which is weird. I used to say painting, like I love to paint, but at Out Front every Monday mornings, I write what we call Best of the Week. And it's really, it's supposed to be like, hey, here's the best creative from last week, but it's kind of turned into a therapeutic session for me where I'm just like, whatever's on my heart that was inspired by the work that my team did the week before is what I spit out on that. And so I guess really it's seeing the work of others, seeing the collaboration of others, especially within my team, how like it really is this ego-free area where they're trying to always help each other, and knowing that the people on my team are so much better than I am, right? They really are. And to get to a point for me to design as good as them, or when I see something that they're doing or a new trick, like wow, that's amazing. So it's generic answer. Everyone else's work inspires me, but it's really more specifically the collaboration that they have and the lifting up of each other that gets me going.
Nice. Very cool. This next question comes from Helen, and I really like this question, especially now during the pandemic. What advice would you have to someone who finds themselves stuck in a place of not caring? How do we inspire ourselves to get out of that?
So find the people that you do care about, like their work, right? So I know before this started, I'd shout out to Lisa Champ and her work, which inspires me. And you know, something our social media director, Max Siegelman, you know, told me once, like, I was like, how the, you know, he knows everybody, like really famous, like LL Cool J, just, you know, Logic, just famous people. He just knows them. Like, how the hell, like, how are you talking to this person again? So I got to just direct message them on Instagram, like just, that's it. And, you know, I thought like, yeah, but they're never going to respond. And so this, even up to this past week, there's a few artists that I love and I'm trying to get them involved in Outframe. So that thing that you saw with Shepard Fairey, which everyone on this call, like, I hope you can submit your artwork on that, please. You know, shameless plug there. But there's an artist I love, and she's, you know, influencer, gazillion followers, and I was like, she'll never see this, but I just want to tell her I really love her work. I sent it out to her, and she responded, just super grateful, because she's just like me. She's just like you. Reach out to those people, you know, talk to them. I think especially now, people are more likely to share and more likely to help each other, especially in our community, in this bubble, this creative bubble, because they get what you're about, because they're about the same thing. That, you know, me, not that you want to talk to me, but like, reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you. Anybody on this call, just don't be shy about that. You know, everybody likes to hear that you like their work.
Awesome. Very cool. Ariana, you have a pretty detailed question, so I'm going to unmute you so you can ask it live. That's okay. All right. You are unmuted now, so if you can ask the question, please.
Hi, yeah. So my question for you, I'm young and I'm just starting off in the industry, and I find sometimes that my age and because I have limited experience, that can be challenging sometimes, especially when you're working with people who have been doing this for so long. So I was just wondering what your advice to somebody who's just starting off would be.
There definitely is that time of, you know, like I mentioned in my story, like I'm constantly showing my book to people, just getting their feedback. And actually, I heard this advice from somebody else, that asking, you know, people you admire their advice, right? Asking them their thoughts, you know, not being scared to have those conversations with them. I mean, even if 9 times out of 10 it goes nowhere, they don't even respond, that 1 time out of 10 they're gonna respond. And you know, passion projects, like the core of what I talked about, you know, for me, my family, we have a very soft spot in our heart for you know, homeless and people that need food. Use that, right? Whatever your passion is, you're going to do the best job on that project. I don't care if it's made up, and nobody on this call cares if you just totally pulled that idea out of your ass. If it's beautiful, if it communicates, and if it's done well, they're gonna relate to it, and they're not gonna care. They're actually gonna be impressed that you have a cause, right? That you champion, that you want to go after, and you took the initiative to create this campaign. And like, don't let it be just, you know, I don't know, typical college project, a tea box or a coffee shop logo. Like, let it be, like I was showing in that Ford example, you know, this part of the campaign, out of home, show it how it integrates in social, show how people can get involved and help out with it, show that it can be exist in so many different places and it's not confined to one thing. And usually those passion projects are those projects that can't be confined, that just keep growing and growing and growing. I'm not sure if that helps, is that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
All right, and this next question, you kind of touched on it earlier with your fresh market example, but how do you have those difficult conversations with, whether it be someone who reports to you or a client, when the creative isn't that well? And what's your philosophy on that, or your approach having those conversations?
Check your intent, for sure. If your intent is for your idea to be shown, then that conversation's probably not going to go very well. But if your intent is truly, I'm just trying to help you, I'm coming from a place where, like, I don't care if my name's on it. I don't care if you get credit for whatever I'm about to tell you. People are going to appreciate that honesty. They're going to appreciate that selflessness. We literally just had a client talk to us yesterday about that very thing, how we were meeting with her creative team, and we could have very easily walked in there and said, whew, you know what? Let us handle that out of home, because you guys don't get it. Y'all are great at magazines, but out of home's not your thing. Like, that would have been awful. Like, that would have, you know, not gone well. But because we really do care about their success, and because honestly, my team of 50, we have to cover over 500,000 canvases across the country in 74 different markets. I don't want to take on all their work, right? Like, I want them to grow, and I want us to collaborate. So I sincerely want the best for their design team, and they're good. Everyone's good. And you have to understand their surroundings, right? So again, so Drew Boland's on this call, like he would say, he's our regional creative director of the South. Listen, you've got to listen, because otherwise you're going to put your foot in your mouth. If you listen, you're going to understand what they're up against, because maybe they already had the same idea you had and they are presented it 3 times already, but you have to understand what they're up against, the layers of approvals that they have to go through on their end. And so if you can understand that first, they're going to be more receptive to listen to you.
Good advice, good advice. All right, do we have any more questions? If you do, please put them in the Q&A box, the chat box, or simply raise your hand and we'll unmute you so you can ask the questions.
And I'm serious on this. If y'all go to wegetyou.com/outframe or just Google outframe, I'd love for everybody on this call to enter something so we can get your artwork, you know, that passion project up on a billboard. That would be awesome.
So Eddy, another question. From time to time, we have non-creatives and creatives that need to work together. So that marketing person has to work with that creative designer, or that account executive has to work with the designer, or that executive who works in finance somehow got assigned a project to work with creative. What's your advice for collaboration in that process when you have people with very different mindsets?
Stay in your lane, bro. Not just kidding. I don't ever say that or talk like that. So I almost feel like Jared Glick and Heather Osborne in our Orlando market should lead a perfect call for just that. That'd be a good thing for y'all to have up next. But they're a great example of, I guess literally staying in your lane, but like that's kind of the negative way of saying it, of appreciating what each other does. Where I think marketing can definitely influence the creative if done right. If a lot of us, I'm sure, are used to those last minute, like, hey, the client wants this, we got to have it done by the end of the day. That's obviously not going to end up very well. But if we're able to talk to the client, I love when the marketing person is on one of those initial calls, because they're hearing the same conversation, but what's going in their head is completely different than what's going in my head, right? We're thinking like visuals over here. They're thinking placement. They're thinking budgets. They're thinking just different PR places that they can stick this story down the road. And when those things come together, they influence each other. And again, those ideas get bigger and bigger. So look at it as a set of hands that does the job that you don't like doing. Embrace that. Let them go to town on what they do. And I guess as long as everyone agrees, because I know personalities can be a little more dominant than others, but as long as everyone agrees that we're going to do the best idea, we're not doing necessarily the creative person's idea, and we're not doing the marketing person's idea necessarily. We're doing the best one. And I think that can be achieved by both people letting each other do. Marketing people got into marketing because they get jacked up about certain Excel spreadsheets. Like they love it. I don't. I'm so glad they love it because, again, I don't. Let them love it. Let's work together.
That's great. All right. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I'm going to pass it over to Terry Mooney, who's our president, for some closing remarks. But thank you again, Eddy, for this amazing presentation. I think a lot of us can agree we've been inspired, and just hearing your story and where you're at today has been great to hear. So thanks again.
Thank y'all. Loved it.
Yeah, Eddy, to just second what Ralphie says. Thank you so much for spending all this time with us today and for really just letting us see that deep dive into your life and into your creative process. Really awesome. And again, we really appreciate it. So thank you. And again, for everybody on the call, think about the mentor-mentee program. Think about volunteering for a position. Think about joining the club. We'd love to have you for all of those things. And I think that's about it. Any further questions or comments that you want us to pass along to Eddy, feel free to send them to me or Ralphie, and we'll take care of that too. So thank you all for attending today. We appreciate it. Thanks again, Eddy, and everybody take care and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, y'all. Have a great night.